Calvary family, I'm thankful that you joined us today. We've been going through a series on God's promises, and I would encourage you, if you hadn't had a chance to watch the previous ones, to go back and catch up with us and walk through some of these together. Because we're going through a challenging season, and I think latching on to God's promises is going to be the key to being successful in this time. Because the reality is that life is unpredictable. Just when you think you've got everything figured out and that all your plans are coming together, the unexpected happens. The doctor gives you a bad report. You've been working hard to get in shape when you develop a nagging injury and all your progress is stopped. Or maybe you go into lockdown and all of a sudden the refrigerator becomes your best friend. The sale of your house falls through again, and now you've got 2 house payments that you're stuck with. Your ex decides to play dirty in an attempt to keep you from custody or visitation, and it looks like their lies and manipulations are going to work. You had retirement all planned, but it came crashing down when your company decided they would no longer honor the pension plan. Your adult child develops an addiction to painkillers. I could go on and on. There are so many unexpected challenges in life. And what you need is a promise, something to stand on when life is uncertain. We've been going through the promises of God found in Scripture. And here is this week's promise. It's one of my favorite verses. It's in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." Doesn't that sound like a great promise? Straight paths. I love that imagery. And in Hebrew, the word used for straight, it means more than guidance. It means that God removes obstacles and makes your path smooth. And it brings you to your appointed goal without some of the bumps and bruises that we normally experience. The image that pops into my head is kind of like Olympic curling. Have you ever seen it? It might not be the best sport, but it gives us a good illustration. The sweeper's job goes ahead of the rock, that big thing, and clears a path. And they melt the ice to guide the thing. It's fascinating to watch. Okay, maybe it's not fascinating. And I'm not sure that it actually qualifies as a sport, but that's another discussion. But it's a great image of how the Lord goes before us to smooth the path and bring us to our appointed goal. It's more than direction. It's the power to continue on the right path. That's an incredible promise. And for most of us, our life is anything but straight. You start here when you're born, and the goal is to get to heaven. But your path isn't just straight. It's crooked and squiggly, erratic. You go here and there, back and forth, on and off, over and over. And you generally know the goal and the direction that you're going, but you lose sight of it. And you wander off course. You know, what you really want in life is a straight path, a direct line, the quickest direction between 2 points, a straight line, always going up and ultimately ending in heaven. Now, what you end up with looks like a bad piece of artwork when you go this way, this way, this way. You look around and go, "God, why aren't you making my path straight? Why is the road so crooked and bumpy? Why don't I seem to be making steady progress towards the goal you've put in front of me?" Some people have decided that God doesn't have a plan for them, or that He doesn't care. They lose confidence or trust in the middle of the twists and turns. If God really loved me, it wouldn't look like this. The reason? It's because you look at the promise of straight paths and ignore the condition. The rest of the statements. You get excited about the straight path and overlook the process that's laid out in there also that leads to straight paths. Look at it again. Proverbs 3:5, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." You know, the dictionary definition of trust is confident expectation of something, or reliance on the integrity, strength, and ability of a person or thing. How many people do you trust 100%? Without a doubt or question, you know that if they say they're going to do something, you believe it every time. I bet you the list is pretty short, isn't it? You know, the reality is we're faced with an erosion of trust. We trust fewer and fewer people in our society. In some ways, the skepticism is valid. It seems like every month, another company is busted for making false claims. Kellogg's once said that eating Rice Krispies cereals would improve kids' immunity, but they couldn't prove it. And it cost them $5 million, $2 million to consumers, $2.5 million to consumers, and $2.5 million to charities. New Balance, the ones that make the shoes, they said if you wearing their shoes would help you burn calories. But they left out a crucial part in their advertising. They said you had to exercise. They ended up paying $2.3 million in a settlement. Olay Cosmetics, they retouched a model's face on an ad for a product that they said would reduce wrinkles. When the truth came out, they didn't deny it. They only explained that this was post-production techniques and it was routine practice in the industry. Volkswagen cheated on their emissions tests and lied to consumers. They recalled millions of cars and it cost them billions of dollars. I could go on and on all of these things that have caused our trust to be eroded in the world today. You don't know who to trust, so you don't trust anyone at all. And I worry that the disappearance of trust in people, companies, government, and the media, it carries over into our concept of God. If people let you down, do you expect God to let you down? Can you have confidence? Can you have confident expectation that God will always come through? Can you totally rely on Him? Can you trust God? When things are going good, when you're happy, healthy, and whole, trust is easy. But the true test of trust is when things don't go your way. Trust is built on history. Every time someone does what they say, every time somebody comes through for you, you trust them a little more. Over time, you decide, I trust this person. They have proven themselves. I trust them because they always come through. Trust is built over time with consistency. To keep trusting in hard times, change your focus. Instead of focusing on your present, focus on God's history. What has God done for you in the past? What has God done for others? Focusing on God's history, it creates faith and trust for your future. Trust in the Lord. Trust, it's just 5 letters. Easy to say and write, but it's very hard to do. If you've ever been hurt and betrayed, you know how hard it is to trust again. But you can trust God. And some of you want to see proof in order to trust God, that's not trust. Trust is belief plus confidence. Trust is believing God is working even when you can't see it. S.M. Lockridge, a famous preacher, he wrote and preached these words about trust. It says, he's the one who made us. It is He who made us and not we ourselves. The heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament shows His handiwork. No means of measure can define His limitless love. No far-seeing telescope can bring into visibility the coastline of His shoreless supply. I'm telling you today, you can trust Him. No barrier can hinder Him from pouring out His blessings. He's enduringly strong and He's entirely sincere. He's eternally steadfast. He's impartially merciful. He's the sinner's Savior. I'm telling you, church, you can trust Him. He does not have to call for help. You can't confuse Him. He doesn't need you. He doesn't need me. He wants us. He's unparalleled. He's unprecedented. He's supreme. He's preeminent. He's the miracle of the age. I'm telling you today, you can trust Him. He can satisfy all your needs. He supplies strength for the weak. He's available for the tempted and the tried. He sympathizes. He sees. He guards. He guides. He heals the sick. He cleanses the leper. He forgives the sinner. He discharges debtors. He delivers the captives. He defends the feeble. He blesses the young. He regards the aged. He rewards the diligent. I'm telling you today, you can trust Him. He is the mighty master of all. He is the captain of the conquerors. He's the head of heroes. He's the leader of legislators. He's the governor of governors. He's the prince of princes. He's the king of kings, and he's the Lord of lords. You can trust him. You can't outlive him, and you can't live without him. Pilate couldn't find any fault in him. Herod couldn't kill him. Death couldn't handle him. And thank God the grave couldn't hold him. There was nobody before him, and there will be nobody after him. He has no predecessor, and he'll have no successor. You can't impeach him, and he's not going to resign. You can trust him. There's no God before him, and there will be none after him. We can walk out of our houses today and finish listening to this sermon knowing that God is trustworthy. You can trust him. Proverbs 3:5, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight." Now, I want to read that verse again and put emphasis in a slightly different place. And this will help you see the reason that oftentimes our paths are crooked and confusing. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. When we say all, what a lot of us mean is we mean most. We hold back what we want to keep and give only what we want to give. We give some and then pretend we're giving all. All can't really mean all, does it? That's too extreme. But the promise says, trust with all your heart. In all your ways acknowledge him. The Message translation says it this way. It says, listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. Trust with all your heart. In all your ways, acknowledge him. Listen for his voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. I think the reason that we don't experience straight paths in life is because we don't make an all-in commitment. We trust God with some of our heart. We acknowledge him in some of our ways. We don't do it all. And we just kind of do it half-hearted. It's as though we've rewritten the verse to read it this way. I will trust in the Lord as much as I am able, as long as it doesn't cost me too much, makes life inconvenient, or keep me from fitting in with everyone around me. I will ask and expect him to bless my plans. I will acknowledge him as Lord, but don't really let that affect the details of my life. I do what I want, when I want, and how I want. I will not allow anyone, including God, to impose what I think are unrealistic expectations on me. And then, because I've given him some trust and followed him with part of my life, God will make my paths straight. And then we get angry and surprised by the twists and turns of life. What does it mean to put trust in God with all your heart? What does it mean to acknowledge him in all your ways? In our do what I want, when I want, consumer and convenience-based society, to be all in for God is countercultural. We've got too much else to do, so many things that occupy our mind. We've made a halfway commitment acceptable. A some of the time, part of the way commitment has become normal. One of the first places that shows is in church attendance. The trends right now are disturbing. And I know this gets touchy with folks because they feel like I'm being judgy or judgmental on them, and I'm not. I'm simply observing a trend that's becoming worrisome. People are giving less and less of their time to God and the church. The average church person who considers themselves a regular attender now attends 1 out of every 3 weeks. If you missed 2 out of every 3 soccer practices, you'd be kicked off the team. If you missed 2 out of every 3 dance classes, you wouldn't be allowed in the show. Now, obviously, this season we're in right now with the shutdown is one of those rare exceptions when none of us can come to the building. But what I'm hopeful for is that this prolonged time where we cannot physically meet will ignite a passion in God's people to truly value the times when we can come together and worship. You know, we show up to events, sporting events and activities, because you don't want to miss the reward. But when it comes to church, it's different. I really wonder, is attending one service a week or one out of every 3 weeks an all-in commitment? Is that a commitment at any level, really? I'm concerned not because there's a magic amount of church attendance that makes you good or saved, but because across the board, not just at Calvary, Christians are less committed than ever before. I'm worried that people who are trying to be lifelong followers of Jesus are not even giving him an hour a week in pursuit of that goal. I'm concerned that as evil in our world increases, many are responding by lowering the expectation and commitment level. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Since the enemy is fighting the church, let's spend less time. Let's lower the bar. Let's drop our commitment level. Let's fight a more difficult battle by easing up. Maybe if we lower our commitment level and give God less time, he'll respond with more help. I'm trying to figure out how that logic works and how it relates to our verse today. Proverbs 3:5, again, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. The reality is Calvary's not the only church that struggles with attendance. I've read about one pastor at a church that decided to address it head on, and we're not here, okay? They sent a letter to their entire membership, and it challenged them, said, if you're not going to attend regularly, and you're not going to give financially, and if you're not going to serve, please find another church to go to. We are going to be committed and serve God with our whole heart. Our church might be smaller, but it will be stronger. And I think coming on the other side of this COVID-19 situation, we're going to see a tighter-knit community of people that value community. I'm determined we're not going to be a passive group of half-committed, low-energy, part-way, convenient Christians. I want to challenge and push our church to a higher level. Why? Because I want to build a faith in you and in this church that is capable of withstanding difficult times. Wishy-washy, half-hearted, low-commitment, part-time followers won't survive hard times. And as this lockdown has shown, hard times hit us like a ton of bricks. Many people have found themselves struggling. And as I shared in the evening devotions, these hard times are an opportunity for us to see where we're weak and where we are strong. Pressure purifies our faith. That's why I want to challenge us. So what does it mean to trust God with all your heart? Well, that's the next part of the verse, and that answers the question. It says, lean not on your own understanding. The Message, again, the translation says, don't try and figure out everything on your own. You plot, you plan, you strategize, you scheme to make your path straight, but all your planning only makes the path more crooked and confusing. Trusting God with all your heart begins with a belief that his plan is better than your plan. His plan for your finances is better than your plan. His plan for your relationships is better than your plan. His plan for your business is better than your plan. His plan for your family is better than your plan. His plan for the future is better than your plan. In every area of your life, God's plan beats your plan. His plan makes your path straight. Your plan is crooked and confusing. And if you can't buy into the fact that his plan is better, you'll never be able to trust him with all your heart. We struggle with trust when things don't seem to make sense. But trust is not only believing that God will do it, but allowing him to choose how he will do it. I came across an email that's very powerful. It's from a young pastor in Arkansas. Here's what it says. It says, we lose trust in God because we feel like he hasn't fulfilled his promise, or we feel like he hasn't blessed us. The problem is we limit God's blessing, miracles, and promises to what we think they have to do or what they have to be for our situation. We think the only way God can bless us financially is if he completely pays off our debt. We think the only way that it's a miracle is if God completely heals us. We choose how God is going to bless us. We choose the miracle that has taken place. Unless the specific thing we decide must happen happens, we feel let down and we lose trust in God. If we remove our tunnel vision on God's blessing, we might actually realize that God has been blessing us all along. No, he didn't pay off all the debt, but he provided an extra job. Someone paid for a meal. Just because God doesn't do what we think his blessing should be doesn't mean he hasn't and isn't blessing us. His will is not our will. His plan is not our plan. Here's what often happens. You do things your way, and then when your path is so crooked you can't find your way to the goal, you say, God, I need you, I trust you. That's not really trusting God. That's saying, God, I've messed this up so bad that I now realize my only hope is to trust you to get me out of this. Thank God that his response to a crisis of prayer is to respond and put you back on the straight path. But as soon as things get going better, a lot of us veer off and go back to trusting our own plans instead of his. Our life looks like this, up and down, bunny trails and rabbit trails, on the path, off the path, backtracking, back the path, back. The only way that we stay on the straight path is to trust him with all our heart and in all our ways, listening for his voice in everything that we do and everywhere we go. I wonder what our lives would look like. I wonder what our church would look like if we really did that. What could happen? What would happen if we listened for his voice in our finances and our relationships, our conflict with others, our church involvement and attendance, in your job, in your business, in your school, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your daily schedule? What would life look like? We don't really have to wonder. The Bible tells us your path would be straight. It would be on track, on course, obstacles removed, moving towards and accomplishing God's objectives for your life, able to move past distractions, be a difference maker, a world changer. We would be settled and at peace, direct and smooth. Now, some of you sitting at home will say, are you saying that if I do this, I won't have any problems? That my life will be worry-free? I can't make that promise. Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. Trouble will come. Instead, the picture is more like spiritual shock absorbers. When you trust in him with all your heart, when you acknowledge him in all your ways, he will give you the strength and the power to stay on the straight path, to roll over the bumps and obstacles of life. On your own, they would throw you off track, back onto that confusing path. But fully committed to him, all the way, 100%, he helps you stay on that straight path. My challenge to you is this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. That means something different for you than your next door neighbor watching at home. For some of you, it's time that you trust him with your finances. For some of you, it involves your church attendance and commitment. If you only come once every 3 weeks, you're not going to grow. I know I've heard it before. You don't have to go to church to be a Christian. And that's true. But I have yet to meet a Christian who's making a difference in the lives of people when they've isolated themselves from everyone else. For some of you, it's trusting God with all your business. For others of you, it's your marriage or your dating relationships. For some of you, it's your plans or your habits. Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. What is all to you? What is that area that you need to commit all of to him? To hold on to that promise that he will make your paths straight, we have to hold up our end and trust and commit in all our ways. Let me bless you today. Father, right now I pray that you bless your people. Bless them in their homes. Bless them in their workplaces. Bless them in their coming and their goings. I pray that you would bless them in every way that you possibly can so that they can be a blessing to others. I pray that you'd help us today to grow in our trust and to lean in all of our ways and hold on to that promise that if we do, you will make our paths straight. We thank you so much that we know you're faithful and committed. You are dedicated to seeing us be successful. And so we thank you and praise you today in your precious name. Amen. Amen. Hey, God bless you today. Thanks for joining us. I look forward to seeing you. Don't forget, you can join us online Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock. We're doing a devotion each night. And on Thursdays in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, I'm throwing up a weekly update just to give you an idea of we're preparing, looking forward to opening up again. I believe that it's going to be soon. And so we're making preparations to do that. And I'm excited that we'll be able to be worshiping in person together, hopefully in the very near future. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.